7 o'clock, meeting is called to order. We have a roll call. Alderman Turner,
Here.
Alderman Haas,
Here.
Alderman Helverson,
Here.
Alderman Rote,
Here.
and the chair is here. Let the record reflect all committee members are present. Item C, approval of minutes.
There's none.
There are none. Okay, so we don't need that. All right, so we have item D, new and previous matters, 2024-0280, summons and complaint against Flying Unicorn LLC, doing business as Thirsty Cactus Saloon, 6108 West Burnham Street, agent Craig Silber.
And Madam Chair, if I could.
Yes, please.
I'm going to make a request that we do these together. It's the same, two of the same incidents are reflective on that. I did speak with both of the licensees prior to this, and I believe that they would be on board with that, but I would like to make a record if that is acceptable to them. Again, two of the three incidents are exactly the same thing.
Okay, and is that acceptable to the parties? Okay. All right, then we'll let the record reflect that we will call both items, which will be item 2, 2024-0317, summons and complaint against Mary Marks for the suspension or revocation of the Class D operator license. So with that being said, Rebecca, I now go on to this part, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I am Suzette Grisham, Chair of the Public Safety Committee. This matter is a hearing being held before Public Safety of the Common Council of the City of West Allis. This license hearing is being held in pursuant of Section 125-12 of the Wisconsin statutes in the matter of the complaint against the Flying Unicorn LLC as well as Mary Marks. Let it be noted for the record, as we already did, a roll call of the following committee members are present, which is Alderman Turner, Alderman Haas, Alderman Helverson, Alderman Rote, and the chair, Suzette Grisham. One assistant city attorney is prosecuting this matter, and another
Attorney.
Prosecutor would be Nick Serwin, and Rebecca. I'm so sorry, Rebecca.
Monty
is acting as advisor to the committee. For the record, we will now have everyone state their appearances.
Nick Serwin, I am the prosecutor. I basically represented the police department or the complainant in this capacity.
And as stated, Attorney Rebecca Monty as the advisor for the committee. And
I'm going to have, if we could, just have both of them come and grab that first table there, and they can make an appearance then too.
and even if you want to slide the mic kind of in between you two so it can catch both of you.
Are you going to be talking about?
Okay, the nature of the hearing.
Well, can we just have your appearance?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yes.
What's your name?
Mary Marcus.
Marcus, I'm sorry, I apologize for not pronouncing it properly.
No problem.
And Craig Silber.
Okay, thank you. Mary and Craig, the nature of this hearing is for the committee to make a decision as it relates to the complaint against you, which has been filed with this committee. Under the provisions of Section 125-12 of the Wisconsin statutes and Section 902-20 of the West Allis Revised Municipal Code, this hearing has been convened for the purpose of determining whether any of the charges against you are true and to make a recommendation based on that determination. This committee will examine evidence concerning the charges through inquiry to both sides. The committee will evaluate and then impartially weigh the evidence. It will determine whether or not any of the charges have been proven solely upon the evidence introduced at this hearing. This hearing is open to the public. A verbatim record of the proceeding is being made by audio recording. You may be represented by an attorney. Assistant Attorney Nicholas Serwin is here as the prosecutor and will present the case against you to the committee. Rebecca Monte is present and will serve as legal advisor to the council, which she is here to advise the committee of questions of law and procedure and may also direct questions to the witnesses on behalf of the committee. You may also present evidence, call and examine witnesses, and cross-examine witnesses against you. Such witnesses will be sworn. Both the complainant and licensee shall be limited to 1 hour each for their presentation of testimony, not including cross-examination or questions from the committee or city attorney representing the committee. The chair may extend the time for presentation of testimony to assure a full and fair hearing. Subject to a motion for consideration by the full committee made by a member of the committee, the chair has the final ability to rule upon all questions, objections, and motions as to procedural matters, admissibility of evidence, and similar issues. All objections, questions, and motions should be directed to the chair. You may testify on your behalf with regard to charges against you. However, what you say will be considered as evidence. Further, if you do testify, you may be cross-examined. If a charge or charges against you are proven, you are advised that the committee may recommend to the common council that your licenses be suspended, revoked, or not renewed, and that the common council may accept or reject such recommendation and may determine upon such recommendation whether your licenses should be suspended, revoked, or not renewed. Mary Marcus and, I'm sorry, I have to,
Craig
Craig
Silber.
Silver. You have been served with a summons for this hearing and copy of the complaint against you, which have been filed with the committee for determination. I now request the clerk to append, as exhibits to the record, a copy of the summons and complaint together with a copy of the affidavit of service. Do you admit to any of the allegations in this complaint, or are there portions which are not contested?
We'll go one at a time, so Mary, we'll start with you. Do you admit, well, I guess I don't wanna speak for the, I'll be quiet, sorry.
Okay, Rebecca Monte?
Yeah, so I guess the first question is you guys received copies of the summons and complaint, right?
Yes.
And then we can go with Mary Marcus first. So there's 2 counts, one concerning an incident on November 30th, 2023, and one concerning an incident on April 8th, 2024. Do you have a position on either one of those in terms of whether they're accurate or inaccurate?
Accurate, yes.
Okay. And then, Mr. Silber, it's the same with the addition of an August 25th, 2023 incident involving a male with the initials EW. So, as for those 3, what is your position on those, Mr. Silber?
The first 2 I would agree with.
The ones that are the same as Ms. Marcus?
Correct.
Okay, and then the third one regarding EW?
I mean, that's something I would like to discuss if possible.
Okay.
Yes.
So
That's a
that
good
one's
answer.
contested then?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about the different allegations, assuming that you didn't want them read out loud. Do you want any of that read out loud?
I mean, not particularly. It's,
Okay.
I mean, pretty embarrassing, honestly, and something that we're not really proud of, obviously, and not what we're.
Okay. I think that's sufficient for that part.
Okay, we'll move on to evidence. At this time, prosecuting attorney, Mr. Serwin, will present evidence as to the charges before the committee. And just as a reminder, all witnesses that are going to testify will be sworn in.
So if you want to do that as he calls his witnesses, you can read the oath that's underneath there.
Okay,
We can do it all at the same time, or you can do it
Uh,
at one at a time.
Whichever you want to do.
why don't we do it at the same time? So if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay,
And just for the record, I believe all participants stated yes in the affirmative.
And including the parties named in the complaint, so when you guys talk about it, when it's your turn to present after Attorney Serwin finishes, then you guys are already sworn too, okay?
Okay.
Just as a point of clarification as a prosecutor then, so there's been an admission to 2 of the offenses. It's my understanding that the committee still wants to hear some information about that. Would that be accurate, despite the fact that there's an admission?
I think that's fair,
Okay.
but you can keep it brief since it's been essentially admitted to.
Okay. I'm gonna call, I'll call Mr. Silver first, actually.
Sure.
Just so we make a clear record, make sure, these are little microphones, so just make sure you're speaking,
Sure.
so that kind of picks up your voice.
Yes.
Can you state and spell your name for the record?
It's Craig Silber, S as in Sam, I-L, B as in boy, E-R.
All right. And how are you associated with the Flying Unicorn LLC?
I'm the owner.
You're the owner of that LLC?
Correct.
Okay. And what are you doing business as?
The Thirsty Cactus Saloon.
All right. How long have you run the Thirsty Cactus Saloon?
We've been open for a little over a year
Okay.
now.
when did you first obtain a license, like an alcohol license for that entity?
It would be about a year and a half, maybe,
Okay.
ago.
So kind of a little bit before you actually opened, just.
Yeah, a few months before.
Was that license ALC 23-4, if you know?
I wouldn't be able to
top
answer
of your
that
head.
off the top of my head,
If
sorry.
that's what the complaint says, do you think that's inaccurate?
It's probably accurate if that's
Okay.
what it's on.
And so you have a Class B intoxicating liquor, Class B fermented malt beverage, and a public entertainment license.
Correct, yep.
Okay. And we've already had some discussion on the record about admitting to those two underage sales. You weren't there at the time, correct?
Correct, I was not there.
Okay. How many bartenders do you normally have on any given night, whether it's weekend or weekdays, if you have a different date?
Well, we have one bartender working at a time,
Okay.
and then on any given day, there'd be 2 or 3 bartenders on, for the whole day.
Okay, so one at a
Different
time,
shifts.
2 or 3 throughout the day?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long are the shifts normally?
Anywhere between, I would say 6 and 8 hours usually.
Okay. And is there ever overlap where you have 2 working at a time?
I mean, yes, if there's stocking taking place and,
Okay.
you know, switching out. Usually there wouldn't be 2 unless we were really busy and they were just helping each other out, trying to get caught up before the other one left.
Beyond the alcohol and public entertainment, do you have any other activities that you do at the bar?
I mean, yes, I do all kinds of different things.
I mean, like, do you have a food, do you serve food, do you
Oh, yes.
do games, do you do,
Yep.
okay,
Yeah, we have pizzas and games.
pizzas and games, is it like
Pool,
pre-made
we have,
pizzas?
yeah, prepackaged.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Alright, so you don't have an extra wait staff or anything, it's just the
No,
bar staff?
yeah, no, it's just
Understood.
a bar staff.
Alright, and that's how you've been operating kind of the entirety of your period of time you've been operating, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
very good. Alright, do you have any policies or practice in place for, that you train your bartenders to utilize for sales to underage individuals?
Yeah, everyone's supposed to be carded. That's, you know, the rule. That's one of the rules that we have. And I mean, I run a pretty tight ship there from top to bottom. I mean, and that's, we missed the mark, obviously. We made a mistake there.
So certainly that's the rule, right? That's the law.
Yes.
How is that conveyed to your bartenders?
Well, obviously prior to hiring the bartenders, they've all passed the Wisconsin servers course, which touches base on that, and that's something that they all should know. And then a lot of the bartenders that I actually have never bartended before, so I personally did train a lot of them to do the job, and that is something that I cover with everybody, and that's, you know, definitely an important thing to do.
Do you have any written policies or practices or procedures in place that you provide new hires at all?
Well, I do have like a group thing that I am able to talk to everybody as a group as opposed to getting them all together. It's kind of like a virtual thing, I guess. So that's definitely something that has been discussed numerous times, even prior to the actual first incident that took place. You know, among other things like making sure we get the right clientele and keeping the right people in there and kicking people out when needed. And being brand new, that's something that, I mean, we really worked at and is still an ongoing, you know, I don't want to say struggle, but we've done a pretty good job at least curbing the clientele and making sure we're keeping good people in there and bringing good people to the area, you know.
Very good. And in terms of service to individuals who are intoxicated, do you have any written policy or practice or things that you train your bartenders on for that?
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's trained to evaluate, I would say, everybody when they come through the door. And because there's a lot of other bars in the area too, so I mean, it does happen where people come in from other bars, and I mean, you don't know what's going on. But if they seem like they've already had a few drinks or too many, then we don't serve them. We ask them, we give them water and/or ask them just to leave, depending on how they're acting and what's going on. And yes, and that's something that is discussed too.
Subsequent to these violations or these issues that we're discussing today, has there been any change in your practice or policy with your bartenders?
Well, yes. Like I said, after the first incident, that's something that I reiterated to not just Mary, but the entire staff. And we went over kind of just that everyone, it's not optional. It's not an optional thing. It's like everyone's supposed to do it. So everyone's supposed to be carded, doesn't matter. And that's, I mean, I made it very clear that that's the way that it's supposed to be. And that's the way it's been since we've been open too. Everyone gets carded. That's part of the job, you know, and how it's supposed to be. So yes, after the first initial time that it happened, I talked to her specifically about it. Obviously, we missed the mark there, and I also reiterated again to the entire staff. I do have a lot of people. I have a decent sized staff, I guess, too, with a lot of people that fill in. So that's something that I reiterated to all of them, and then we talked about it at that time. And then after it happened the second time, which it's a hard pill to swallow, you know. I then had another conversation with her personally. It was a little bit more in-depth conversation, I'll say, without getting into detail. And then I punished her in certain instances, and then I hammered it home to, again, the entire staff, which does probably sound like a broken record, but on multiple occasions, I revisited that with the entire staff, and that's something that, you know, we're trying to pride ourselves on doing everything right, you know. So it's not something that I take lightly at all, and, you know, like I said, it's very embarrassing, and I mean, everyone's here now, you know, for something that we did wrong, so it's, you know, I'm sorry for that.
How many staff do you employ generally? I don't need exact numbers, but ballpark.
I would say probably like 14 maybe,
Okay. All right.
with my cleaner, you know.
I don't have any further questions at this time for Mr. Silber. I guess my position would be they will get an opportunity to present their case in chief after I'm done with mine, and so I'm not sure if the board wants to have questions, or the committee wants to have questions right now for them, or if we just wait till I'm done with everything. It's your call.
Kind of the same thing I was just telling you. Okay. That was,
Consensus is we'd rather wait? Okay, that's fine, we will wait.
And then I will call Mary. Mary, can you state and spell your name for the record?
Mary Marcus, Mary Markes.
Okay. And you have a bartender's license under BART-511, is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And that's under, for the current license period, that is 2022 to 2024, it's from July to June, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is this your first time having a bartender's license, or, okay.
Yes.
And do you bartend anywhere else?
To fill in, I'm a server, so
Okay.
I mean, I serve, but
In other places, but is your primary place?
yeah, I
at-
only bartend at Thirsty Cactus,
Thirsty
so
Cactus, okay,
yes.
gotcha. And how long have you been working at Thirsty Cactus?
Since May 31st.
May 31st?
So since we opened last year,
Okay,
sorry.
so last year, so
Yes.
what's from the beginning, okay.
Yes.
Do you live in the area? Okay.
Yes, I live in Tosa.
Okay, gotcha. So you come in from Tosa, work at Thirsty Cactus, among some other places, but that's your primary,
Yes.
okay. You were trained to not provide alcohol to underage individuals, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
both from the state's perspective and from your employer?
Yes.
Okay. What is your current practice when somebody comes in to order alcohol?
At this point, I card everybody. I'm messed up badly, and I gotta eat that. I gotta own it. At the end of the day, I know it's a privilege to have a license, and I just want to prove and show that I'm working every single day. I took the course again. I took the Wisconsin Responsible Beverage course again. I watched a bunch of videos, took a bunch of notes I could show you all if you like to see my notes on everything. And just on top of that, just working super hard. Even from him, we've had so many conversations, and he really, really is just reeling it in. We have to ID everybody, card everybody, so.
So that November 30th, 2023, the cops did an undercover kind of operation at several bars. That was you working that night?
Yes.
Okay. And then on April 8th, 2024, same thing?
That was me, yes.
That was you, okay. In fact, you made a phone call right afterwards on that one, right after it happened, and I think you probably realized what happened at that time when the kid walked away, and you were calling your boss, right? Okay.
Sir.
Tell him what happened?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna be done there because I'm gonna ask the officers questions about what happened. Okay. I have no further questions for this time. I'm gonna start with Officer Clark. Could you state and spell your name for the record?
Allison Clark, ALLISON CLARK.
All right, and you were previously sworn in?
Yes.
All right, that holds true currently for this point in time. How are you employed?
Police officer for the city of West Allis.
And how long have you been a police officer for the city of West Allis?
Approximately 8.5 years.
All right. Were you working, I had it open.
August 25th.
I'll get it, I'll get it. Were you working as an officer back on August 25th, 2023?
Yes, I was.
All right, and what's your normal shift?
3 p.m. to 11 p.m.
All right, so that's second shift?
Second shift.
All right, gotcha. You're on shift right now?
Yes.
Dog is in the car?
Yes.
All right, got it. And were you dispatched out to 6108 West Burnham?
Yes, I was.
Is that the Thirsty Cactus Saloon?
Yes.
Why were you dispatched to that location?
Somebody called to report that there was a male who was assisted out of the bar by 2 other individuals and put into a vehicle.
What do you mean by assisted, if you know?
Helped him walk.
Helped them walk, okay. So you go to the scene, and what do you look for when you're there?
I looked for the vehicle that was described by our dispatch.
Did you find it?
Yes, I did.
And did you note anything specific about that vehicle, whether it be occupants or something else?
There was one person inside the vehicle. It was not running.
Okay. Did you make contact with that individual?
Yes, I did.
And do you remember like his either first name or his initials?
First name, I believe, was Eugene.
Eugene, all right. Generally, how old was Eugene? Just from a young man, just 21, middle-aged?
He was an older male, probably in his
gentleman?
60s.
Okay. And when you had contact with Eugene, what, if anything, did you observe?
He appeared to be highly intoxicated. I could smell the alcohol, his eyes red and glassy, slurring his words.
Okay. Did you have him exit the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Make any other observations about his person?
He had urinated himself and was unable to stand on his own.
Okay. And did you ask him about where he had consumed alcohol?
Yes,
Where was that?
he was at the Thirsty Cactus.
All right. Did he say how much he had to drink?
I believe he said he had about 6 drinks.
Okay. So what happened with Eugene from there?
He ultimately accepted a ride to his residence where he was turned over to his sister to care for him.
Okay. Did you then go back to Thirsty Cactus?
Yes, I did.
All right. And why did you go back?
I wanted to make contact with the bartender to speak with them about why they didn't call and the dangers of overserving people.
Okay. So when you say why they didn't call, so the call didn't come from the bartender, it came from some random other person?
Yes.
Okay. And did you speak with that bartender?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember who that person was generally?
Eileen? I believe.
Eileen. Okay, so not Mary.
It was not Mary.
All right, Eileen, a different bartender.
Correct.
Got it. Was she cooperative?
Yes.
All right. And what, if anything, did she say happened?
She stated that Eugene was a regular. He had been in the bar for a few hours, that she had served him about, I think, 4 beers and 2 mixed drinks, and she did not believe he was intoxicated until he stood up and was assisted out of the bar by 2 people who were no longer there.
Okay. And again, just to be clear, you noted in your, you read a narrative about this, right?
Yes.
And you wrote in your narrative that she was very cooperative with you?
Yes.
Okay. Did you issue any citations or anything at that time?
I did not.
Okay. Just the warning, hey,
Yep.
don't overserve people.
Correct.
All right, very good. Do you have anything else to add related to this interaction?
No.
Okay. I have nothing further for this witness at this time. I guess from a procedural standpoint, my proposal would be to open it up for questions by the 2 individuals. Mary, this isn't really your thing, so probably not you. And then I think the board, committee, I'm still stuck on board of review. The committee would have the chance to ask questions now, because I likely would ask for Officer Clark to be let go since she's on shift and the dog in the car.
Okay, so at this time, we would ask Mr. Silver
Yep.
if he would like to cross Officer Clark.
Do you have any questions?
Question, not cross her, like literally.
I mean, not really. You said my bartenders are all super helpful. I mean, I've helped the police numerous times, even with stuff that's not happened at my bar, so it's not surprising. I don't doubt that what you're saying happened, but what I do doubt, I mean, there's questionable things within that could have taken place, or that most likely did take place.
Did you have questions for the officer though? Otherwise, you'll have a chance.
How
to
did you
explain.
know that it was urine and that he didn't get spilled on?
It smelled like urine and was in the place on his pants
Yeah.
where it would be urine.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what to say about that. It didn't happen in that, I know that didn't happen in the bar, and I did talk to my bartender about that as well. Guess I don't have any questions for you, just more of an explanation or contradicting what that side of the story is, I guess.
Officer Clark, I have one question for you.
Yes.
Is there any camera footage within the establishment that could be reviewed or was reviewed?
I did not review any footage based on the fact that I wasn't issuing any citations and taking it as a learning experience. I did not actually review anything, and the bartender admitting she had served him 6 drinks and saying she didn't think he was intoxicated until he started leaving.
I'm not sure your protocol when you visit an establishment based on that, what other question and criteria you follow. Is that, how would I phrase this? Did Eileen offer anything other than she served the 6 drinks that, you know, he didn't appear intoxicated when he came in?
She did not mention, no.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. I'll open it up to any of the committee members. Do you have any questions? Okay, all right. That's all I have.
Would the committee be okay if I let Officer Clark go then?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you guys need her for any reason? No.
No, you did, I mean, I guess I maybe have one other question. You did observe him, that he had a cane, correct? That he was,
He had some other disabilities as well.
correct, okay.
Any other follow-up? Next to call Officer Adam Stickle. Sir, could you state the spelling name for the record?
Adam Stickle, ADAMSTIKL.
How are you employed?
I'm a patrol sergeant for the City of West Allis Police Department.
I called you officer, I'm sorry, Sergeant.
You're fine.
And how long have you been employed with the City of West Allis as a officer in some capacity?
Almost 11 years.
All right. What is your current duties related to bars or taverns?
Right now, I oversee tavern stuff, whether it's compliance checks on a daily basis or even some of this other stuff that we'll be talking about. Just overseeing some of that stuff, whether it's violations, complaints, things of that nature.
Okay. And so you're kind of one of the filtering individuals for bars, specifically in the police department in West Allis.
Correct.
All right, very good. As part of your duties or the West Allis Police Department duties, do you guys do occasional underage checks at bars?
Yes, they're called alcohol compliance checks at various taverns.
All right. How frequently would you say those happen?
Once every 6 months, we'll do 2 a year.
2 a year?
Minimum.
Okay. And how many bars do you normally go to in that session?
We randomly select 10 bars for that one period, for that one day.
Okay. And for the November 30th, 2023 checks, were you involved in that process?
Yes, I was.
All right. And how does the West Allis Police Department do these compliance checks?
So we have an individual who's an adult, but below the age of 21, so they're 18, 19, or 20 years old. What we do is we have them, basically, another officer and myself go in plain clothes. We go into a tavern and we just have that individual go into the bar and ask to order some type of alcoholic beverage. The idea is that the check and balance to make sure that they're checking IDs, that they're not serving people under the age of 21. So with that protocol, we're there watching it, making sure everything what happens, they're safe in general, and then just getting those observations of whether or not they sell or don't sell.
All right. So when these 10 checks happen at each individual bar, you are in that bar at the same time as this underage individual who's kind of like the undercover, basically.
Yes, we're there before they enter, and then we're there after they leave. So
Okay.
we're there for the entirety of it.
All right. And for the November 30th, 2023 compliance checks, who did we use as the underage individual?
It's a female who's 19 years of age.
Okay. How did you check that she was 19 years of age?
So I talked to her prior before she actually rides with us to these different establishments. So I checked her ID, her Wisconsin driver's license, and then I verified that she was 19 and not 21.
Okay. And did you confirm that she didn't have any other fake IDs or anything else on her that would kind of instigate a sale by the bartenders?
Yeah, so our protocol is when we have contact with this individual at the police department, as we go through the instructions on how this works, I ask for all IDs, so whether it's a driver's license, ID card, school ID, work ID, anything with their face, date of birth, potential information on it, I actually ask for all of it. I put it in my mailbox and I return it to them after, so that there's no way that there could have some type of confusion of trying to show some type of ID to convince a bartender that they're of age.
Do you give these individuals, the underage individual, specific instructions about how to interact with the bartenders?
Yep, they just go in, they just ask to sell for, can I purchase a beer, some type of alcoholic drink? They don't try to convince the individual that, hey, I am 21, just sell me the drink. We don't do that. Basically, they say, I would like to buy an alcoholic drink. If they don't check the ID and they sell it, all they're going to do is sit there for a minute or two, then they leave the premises. If the individual does ask if they're 21, we do tell them they're 21, because again, it's the idea of checking the ID to verify their ID. So if they say, well, what's your date of birth? I'll just tell them, you can give them your date of birth, but change the year so that it makes you 21. Because again, the idea of checking IDs to verify everything. And if they say, well, I want to see ID, all they do is just say, oh, I left it at home or I don't have it. And then if they ask me to leave, they just leave.
Okay. And so beyond that one simple explanation about either this is my age or I left it at home, are they able to continue to plead or try to like get a drink?
Nope. Once they ask and they say, I need to see your ID or you need to leave, they immediately are instructed to leave the business.
All right. Are they given money from the West Allis Police Department to make this purchase?
Yes, they are. It's all funded through the police department.
Okay, so it's not their own personal cash, it's not,
Nope.
this is all through the police department?
Correct.
Okay, very good. All right, so, and do you ensure that this individual hasn't consumed any alcohol either before or during this interaction?
Correct.
Okay, because they're underage, obviously.
Correct.
All right.
That would be a problem.
That would be a problem. All right, so, so this starts on November 30th, and then it runs, is it over midnight, or is it, no, it's on that date, but then you follow up afterwards, right?
I follow up the following day because usually it happens around 11 o'clock, midnight, somewhere, depending on how many bars or how long it takes. So
Okay.
we usually do follow up on the next day or two.
Okay, so the initial actual interaction with this informant, we'll call her Riley, if that's okay, right? Okay.
Sure.
That's her name?
Yes.
Okay, so Riley is 19, you go into specifically the Thirsty Cactus as one of these locations on the November 30th date, right?
Yes.
All right, and that's the same Thirsty Cactus we've been talking about so far?
Yes.
All right. And what happens in that establishment?
So another officer and myself, we're in plain clothes. We walk into the bar. We order like a water and a beer. Obviously, we're on duty, so we're just sitting there. A couple of minutes, we text the individual, it's okay to come into the bar. The individual then came into the bar. So at the time, as she entered, it was just the three of us. There was no one else in the establishment at the time. She sat maybe like 2 or 3 bar stools to the right of me. Just asked to purchase a beer. The bartender, who would be Mary at the time, didn't ask for an ID, got an alcoholic beverage, put it right in front of the Riley, and then it made the cash exchange for the money. So she gave her the money, she gave her change back, completing the transaction, and then after a minute or two, she walked out of the business. After that, then another officer and myself, a couple minutes after that, then exited the establishment.
Okay, so that night you don't do anything about the violation right on the scene?
No, because there's other establishments that we go and do these compliance checks as well, and if we confront someone at that time, they're gonna call their bars, and then it's not going to work, so.
Okay, so you don't confront people right off the bat, you wait and you go do your next 7, 8, 9, whatever checks you gotta do.
Yes.
Got it, all right. The next day then, or shortly thereafter, do you follow up with the establishment at the Thirsty Cactus?
I worked second shift, so at the time I was busy, so I just called the licensed owner of the bar,
Do you know who that was?
Craig Silber,
Okay, did you talk to Mr. Silver about what happened?
over the phone, yes. I advised him of what happened.
Were you able to identify the bartender in question?
Eventually, he gave me a first name and a phone number. Luckily, we had contacts with Mary with that phone number, so basically what I did is I did a information inquiry, got her DOT photo, and I was able to identify her as that individual, because unfortunately I couldn't make contact with her either via phone, and she lives outside the city, so based on some of the call volume, I wasn't able to go to Wauwatosa and make contact with her, so.
Did you issue any citations?
Issue one citation for selling alcohol to an underage individual.
Okay. Did the bar get any citations or anything?
No.
Okay. And then you also did other checks that day at the same time, but
Correct.
not related to this bar or this bartender?
Correct.
All right. I have no further questions for this officer at this time. Do either of you?
personally do not. Do any of the other committee members have any questions?
I do not know.
Okay, nope, nothing further.
Thanks. Can you type for a minute?
Yep.
please? Then lastly, well, I'm gonna make a little brief record here that, of one of the incidents that relates to over-service, the officer is not available, to testify today. I didn't have a workaround, nobody else was with him or her at this time. I would certainly argue, as a matter of law, that hearsay is admissible in these types of hearings, but I'm not overly interested in using hearsay as the sole basis to prove one of those violations. And so I'm kind of stuck with the field as it was up. I don't have the ability to call that officer, and I'm not going to use hearsay to prove that that existed. I might ask some questions about it in a little bit, but of somebody else. But I'm just giving you a heads up that that's not going to be part of something I talk about. Okay. All right. Last, I will call Officer Schultz.
Attorney Serlin, before we begin with Officer Schultz and Rebecca Monte, I have a question. Does the police report then suffice as evidence?
I mean, if Attorney Saran wants to move for that to be admitted, that would traditionally be hearsay, like he's talking about.
Right, so that would be hearsay as well.
What I'm gonna
Yes.
do is I'll probably recall, Mr. Silver and just talk to him briefly about that and move and go at it that way, but certainly there's ways for hearsay to be more functional from my perspective, where if somebody is either opening a door, to discuss an item, but again, for the truth of the matter, sort of is what hearsay really is, and to prove that as a violation becomes problematic from my perspective. I'll just leave it at that.
That's fine, thank you, Attorney
Thank you.
Serlin.
All right, sir, can you state and spell your name for the record?
Ryan Schultz, Ryan, last name Schultz, Schultz.
How are you employed?
City of West Dallas as a police officer.
You've been previously sworn in on this matter, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. And how long have you been a police officer for the city of West Dallas?
Just under 10 years.
All right, were you working as an officer back on, first and foremost, do you help or assist Sergeant Stickle with the tavern compliance checks?
Yes.
Okay. Do you boss him around, or does he boss you around?
Yes.
Just checking. All right, so on April 8th, 2024, were you involved in a compliance check?
Yes.
Okay, and we had some previous testimony from somebody other than you about how that process takes place, but can you give me your general perspective from a succinct and broad level, what that compliance check would be?
Yeah, Sergeant Stickle already explained, but long and short of it is myself and another officer. We wear plain clothes. We randomly select 10 businesses that have liquor licenses, taverns. We go in first. We have our underage person that we confirmed is not 21 come into the tavern shortly after we do. Don't sit by us. Go in, request to order a beverage, and if a beverage is served, we're there to obviously ensure everyone's safety and see that who is bartending, our observations, and then that person will then leave, and then we leave shortly after that.
All right, so April 8th, you're involved in this one, 2024, and who is the underage individual?
It's one of our community services officers, Nathan Sigelko.
Okay, and so Nathan is under the age of 21, or was at the time?
He's 20, he's still 20.
He's still 20 at this time. He actually is like what's a community service officer, CSO?
CSOs, they are usually college students looking to get into law enforcement. They come and handle low-level calls for service, civil matters, barking dogs, things like that. Just
Pretend to go buy beers.
that as well, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, and one of those establishments on April 8th was going to be the Thirsty Cactus, correct?
Correct.
All right, and that is over at 6108 West Burnham?
Correct.
All right. Did you ensure, just like Officer Stickle had testified previously and you testified, that this individual didn't have any other ID on him?
Correct. Sergeant Stickle actually trained me up how to do this, so I follow the same practices that he does. Take their IDs, put them in my mailbox, then give them to him after we're done.
Okay. Did you provide this individual money to make purchases?
Yes, from the police department.
All right. So let's get to specifics on the Thirsty Cactus then. This was April 8th he actually went there, correct?
Correct.
All right. And what happened?
Myself and my partner walked into the tavern. We sat on one end of the bar. Several minutes later, CSO Sigelko came in, sat opposite the bar from us. He ordered, I believe, a Bud Light, bottle of Bud Light. Mary here served him without checking his ID. Cash transaction was completed. CSO Cyclical walked out of the tavern. Mary frantically began to follow him out and make a phone call. And it was pretty obvious to us that she knew what just happened. And then several minutes later, me and my partner and I, we walked out as well.
Okay. By and large, now you weren't at the other one with officers, or Sergeant Stickle, right?
No,
Okay, but you're trained to do it the exact same way, so this would have looked very similar to Mary?
correct.
Okay. And then did you do follow-up with the either licensee of the bar or the bartender?
Yes, I stopped in a day or two after to try to make contact with Mary and or Craig. Ultimately, neither of them were there. I got Craig's phone number, spoke with him on the phone, and any follow-up contact I had with either party was done over the phone.
Okay. And when you spoke with Craig, did you explain the situation, what happened?
Yes, he was already aware as well.
He was already aware? All right, how'd that discussion go?
I explained what happened. I think it's fair to say Craig was frustrated and just kind of thought that wasn't really fair what we were doing. And he explained that, you know, they're a small business, family-owned business, and I simply advised him that the black and white of it is that IDs need to be checked.
Okay. Did you make contact with Mary?
I did.
And did she make any statements to you?
She knew she messed up the minute it happened. I asked why she didn't check ID. I believe she said something along the lines she thought he was of age. And I advised her that she'd be receiving a citation for selling to an underage party, but a second offense citation.
And so you did issue citations in this offense?
Yeah,
Okay. Just to Mary or to the bar as well?
just to Mary.
Okay. I have no further questions for the officer at this time.
Officer Schultz, I have a question. As Attorney Serwin has stated, there's a certain training that you go through, and does that model of compliance checks ever change?
No.
Okay, so it's a standard protocol, so as stated, it could be obvious to a bartender who has been cited prior that that could potentially be a compliance check.
It's fair to say, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions. Do any committee members do?
No.
All right.
Do either of the,
Oh, I went out of order. My apologies.
no questions? Okay. I think you're good to go. I don't need him anymore. I'm keeping Sergeant Stickle just because he's kind of he's the guy that runs these things, and so I don't mind letting Officer Schultz go in case, unless anybody else needs him around.
I don't personally.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Take care.
Thank you.
I'm gonna recall Mr. Silber briefly. Mr. Silber, you're still under oath, okay? All right. So back in December 16th of 2023, officers were dispatched out to your saloon regarding an argument that was taking place. Were you made aware of that?
I wasn't.
You weren't? All right, you didn't know it happened at all?
No.
Okay. Do you have a policy or practice in terms of your bartenders notifying you when police arrive on scene?
I mean, if there's a problem that I need to be aware of, they should let me know.
Okay. Would you conclude or consider that police being at the place would be a problem you should be aware of?
Honestly, not every time, no.
Okay. If there's a fight at your bar, would that be something you should be aware of?
Definitely.
Okay. And so, beyond the complaint, because you got a copy of the complaint, right?
I did.
And it talked about this incident on December 16th where it sounds like your bartender probably tried to do the right thing and get some people out of the bar, right?
Yeah, after the fact, I did talk to him about it, and that's
Okay.
basically, I think, it was a pretty vague conversation, but yeah, it sounded like they were just trying to ask somebody to leave, and they maybe didn't leave, so they called the police, which I also informed them to do if they ever have any problems or with anyone at all, that's their first point of contact should be the police.
Okay. And so your bartender at the time was Yolanda?
Okay.
Is that,
It's-
do you employ a person named
I do,
Yolanda?
yes.
Okay. Yolanda Marquise or Marquette,
Mhm.
Marquez, okay. Is that the person you talked to about whatever happened that night?
After the fact, yes.
Okay.
I believe I had actually I don't think in the report it even said who the bartender was, so I actually had to try to figure out, and it was so far, like it happened when I got notified about it. I think the same time, maybe they did, or whenever you sent that report to me,
Yeah.
that was the first time I I ever heard of this.
Okay.
So I had to like ask around my bartenders to see what exactly took place and whatnot, and yeah, I believe that was working.
Okay. And so I guess I'm gonna circle back to the idea of what type of incidents then should trigger you being notified of something happening at your bar?
I mean, if there's a fight or, I mean, really, honestly, my bartenders they've been trained to deal with most situations, so we haven't had any fights, luckily, knock on wood. And that's something that we try to prevent before it happens. Same with why we are, I mean, basically, I don't want to say judging people when they come in, but I mean, we're always being aware of what's going on around us. And my bartenders know that, hey, if they see something that's happening or people are starting to talk back and forth that doesn't seem like it's friendly, that they need to handle the situation right away and get them out of the bar. So, I mean, yeah, I guess if the police come, because the police they come looking for my camera footage of things that happen down the street that have nothing to do with the bar. So, I mean, they can show up anytime. That's why when you ask me if they should notify me every time.
Okay.
Typically not. Usually they'll leave a note for me, or, I mean, they all have my phone number too, so if the police need to get hold of me, or anybody for that matter, I think everyone has access to my phone number. They can call me.
So, to be fair then, if it's not an incident related with your bar, if the cops just show up for something unrelated,
Yeah.
there's not really a policy in place to let you know.
Yeah, I mean, they usually do let me know, but they don't,
Okay.
yeah.
If it's an incident at your bar then where the cops are actually responding to your bar for that purpose, should
Yes.
they let you know on those?
They should, yeah.
Okay,
If there's
this
if there was actually a fight or something that took place where it wasn't just bickering going on,
But this one wouldn't have been that.
no,
Okay.
it wouldn't have been that.
So once you got the complaint, you did some investigation on your side and tried to figure out what happened. What was the information that you got about what happened that night?
That there was an argument that they wanted somebody to leave and they didn't, if I
Okay.
can recall it.
Okay.
Honestly, and after that did happen too, I did let them know that if the police do come, they should let me know that at least they were there so that I'm aware of what's going on, because I was completely blindsided when I saw that there was even a report about it. I mean,
Right, 'cause
people argue, you know, and I don't need to know about it every single time it happens.
For
you know,
sure.
yeah.
But it's your bar and it's your livelihood on the line,
Correct.
right? So like, as the licensee, anything that happens in the bar, whether it's your fault or not your fault, could potentially be construed against the bar, right?
Correct.
Get that
yeah.
now? Okay.
Yep.
If the police report talks about your bartender seeing a firearm, would that be something she should have notified you about?
Yeah, and probably the police too, because we don't allow firearms and weapons in the bar, yeah.
Right. So again, if the police report indicates that this male then took out a black handgun and held it at his side, he made a statement along the lines of, "I'm coming back to get you," and then Yolanda advised the male that the male did not point a handgun at anybody, and he got back into the driver's side of the SUV and then they left. Would that be something that should have been referred to you?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And you have a bar manager, Jose?
I do.
All right. How frequently does Jose stand in the place of you?
He would be another point of contact if
Okay.
there was a situation, especially if it was at night, that everyone's supposed to let either him or me know if something takes place, if that warrants, you know, us needing to be there and or, you know, handling any type of situation.
Okay.
So yes, he would be which everyone's supposed to contact him.
All right. And to be clear, I'm not indicating whether or not a gun was seen at the bar. It was after the fact, or the allegation, or at least the report references after the fact. But I'm just kind of trying to highlight to you specifically, like, where are these checks and balances? And if they're not in place right now, where could you impose them to make sure that if something happens, you're aware of it before anybody else is aware of it, right?
Yep, I do like to know what's going on all the time in my own bar. That's why I have cameras in there, and my bartenders know that if something happens, that they should either message me or message Jose. So
Okay.
that's something that is discussed. You know, like I said, luckily we do a pretty good job up front of trying to minimize and or eliminate any potential problems that could take place. That's something that we really, I hammered home, especially being brand new in the area that we're in, that we're no nonsense. If somebody comes in and look like they're going to cause a problem, or they are agitated, or they're bothering people, that we need to get those people out of there as soon as possible and just eliminate that from ever being a problem. Like, that's something that we really, really practiced on and like worked vigorously at and still do, to make sure that people aren't stumbling in from the bars that are around the corner or have been kicked out of other bars and then come to our bar and then try to cause problems, so.
So is your understanding of this incident specifically that there was some patrons in the bar that got into a minor, and it even says here, minor disorderly situation, and then they were told to leave, all the patrons were?
What I was told about that in specific was, I think, they just were some bickering going on. The bartender asked somebody to leave, they didn't leave, so they called the police, which is what I
Okay.
tell them to do.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's when, okay. And
That's all I really know about that whole situation.
did Jose, your bar manager, he didn't relay this information to you then after this took place, right?
He did not.
Okay. Do you have a policy, I mean, again, the buck stops with you then, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So going forward,
Mhm.
do you expect to get a report or some sort of like, maybe if it's not even a nightly factor or a nightly situation, but hey, the last 3 nights, these are the interactions that we generally had, just so you can follow up to make sure that you understand what's happening?
Yeah, because I need to know what's happening. Like today, I went in and my bartender. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys ever run bars or not, but there's constantly always things taking place, and there's so much going on all the time that, I mean, you really have to like kind of, I don't want to say pick and choose your battles because they're all battles, but I mean, I'm basically sometimes it's all babysitting, you know, like that's what it boils down to, or talking to grown men and asking them, hey, guess what, you can't come back here anymore. So my bartender today, just, I mean, off topic, but said, hey, look at this, and she showed me her phone, and one of the regulars that were there, their girlfriend was messaging her, and she's just an employee, she's just working, you know, saying like, there's literally like death threats on her phone, and she's showing this. So this is what I'm dealing with on a regular basis. That doesn't happen all the time, but
Right.
it's just a random situation that popped up today when I talked to her. And so then there, I'm like, okay, well, now I have to figure out how I'm gonna deal with this, and then I deal with that accordingly, so.
Okay. And you don't have any information about this specific incident about overservice or you guys didn't talk about that, correct?
Over service?
So for the one where the officer's not here for December 16th,
Yeah.
you talked generally about kicking people out that were involved in a fight, but you didn't talk about
Well, they were arguing. I don't know if you
arguing.
call it a
Not-
fight.
I agree that it was, I'm sorry if
Right.
am I using a
I guess
loose
they were
term?
arguing, and even more so that one of my bartenders did what they were supposed to do and observed that there was tension,
Yep.
right? So she asked one of the people to leave, and I guess maybe he didn't want to, or she didn't feel like arguing with the guy anymore, so she called the police.
Very good, okay.
So we utilize the police. I mean, like I said, I expect them to help me out, and I mean, I'm more than happy to always help them out, which I have done on numerous occasions already since being open. That literally has nothing to do with my establishment at all. Just things that happened up the street because I have a camera that points up the street and out the other way as well. So
Very good. I have no further questions about that incident for Mr. Silver. I guess I'll defer to your attorney for whatever value that may hold. I don't know if anybody else has questions based on my other questions.
Is this where we go back to, we can ask any of the questions that we have based on,
So this is still Nick's kind of portion, and then
Okay.
next they'll get to present what they want to say, and then I would say if you have more general questions that aren't specifically related to that, then that would be the time.
okay. All right, then I have nothing to say at this time.
All right, I have one question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Alderman Turner.
What is the procedure that happens when someone was drinking too much,
yep,
has to be carried out the building
yeah.
and put into a car? Is there,
Well, that should never have happened. And I mean, can I talk about that specific incident now? Is that what we're going to discuss, or are you just asking me
sorry.
protocol on that?
Alderman Turner, if I may interject, this was, I think, the line of questioning that we were gonna go after.
afterwards? I'm sorry.
So if you don't mind, that
Okay.
we keep our time and move forward.
Okay.
And I think
We'll
kinda
we'll definitely touch base.
yeah, Attorney Serwin, I believe, was going into kind of the December 16th incident. If
see.
you don't have anything about that, then let's go ahead and let them make their presentation, because he might answer some of your questions during that.
Thank you, Alderman.
Fine.
that's where I would say at this point, I'm gonna rest subject to rebuttal. I'm gonna retain the officer here in case some statements come up that may be confusing. And so I am done with my case in chief at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So at this time, you are offered an opportunity to state your case. Is that how we proceed? So would we start with Mr. Silver?
Sure. I mean, just in general, I guess talking about the starting with the minors, being served. Definitely not one of our highest moments. That's not what we're trying to do in the city, and that's not what we want to do in general. I run a family establishment. I'm trying to teeter on the line of I don't want to be like that regular corner bar. I'm trying to have more kind of family and just kind of bringing more people to the area, which I think we've done a pretty good job of doing, becoming more of a destination spot rather than just like your regular corner bar. I mean, I have great people that work for me. I have veterans, I have teachers, you know, and yeah, it's embarrassing it happened, right? I mean, I'm not going to debate. I take full responsibility for that. It's not something that we practice. My wife's a school teacher. I mean, we would never condone underage drinking by any means. Like I said, it's embarrassing, which is why originally when we had the plea deal thing going, I was just going to accept the responsibility, take whatever punishment was dealt out, and move on from there. I didn't really want to discuss it.
So you had said a couple of times that you had like things that you contradicted what other testimony had been given,
Yeah.
and that you didn't agree with certain
Right.
facts. So this is kind of now your chance to explain those things.
So yeah, touching base though, like the bar that I have, if it's gonna be like a problem bar, I don't want to do that. You know, I'm not gonna have a problem. So we do like food drives and other things that try to better. We had Irish dancers, kids come in and stuff like that, and like families.
Do one of these? You good?
I'm good. So I'm not proud of this. You know what I mean? It's embarrassing. I'm upset with her. We talked about it. I punished her for it. She got tickets for it. I know, like, I don't want to touch on her personal business, but like, all the bartenders are not doing it because they're rich. You know, they're doing it because they need to. So, just not proud of that. The other situation with the guy, he's actually a regular at the bar. I think he's still a regular at the bar. He's an older gentleman. He does walk with a cane. He has problems walking. I know that my bartender that served him that day served him many other days, and she actually is also a school teacher. She's got a master's degree. She's a very smart person. And that gentleman was in the bar that specific day, because I talked to her about it, for over a 4-hour period. She served him 4 beers, and she said 2 shots. And I don't know if he bought the shot for somebody else or if he took both shots. So it wasn't, I mean, in my opinion, I don't believe that is considered over-serving, especially for over a 4-hour duration to have 4 beers, you know, and 2 shots even. She would never, ever, I know for a fact, ever let somebody leave and drive out of there. So I don't, and what I believe that the people that escorted this gentleman out said they were going to take him home. Otherwise, she would have never. There's no way that she would have ever let that guy leave or attempt to drive out of there if she noticed that he was drunk after the fact. But leading into this is, like I said, he's a regular, so he's there all the time. It was nothing uncommon. It's not like he was pounding down beers and shots and stuff like that. He does walk with a cane already, so he's got some other medical issues that I'm not 100% sure about. I don't know what kind of medicines he takes. I don't know if he ate breakfast that day or lunch that day. I mean, there's a slew of different things that could have taken place on that specific day. She mentioned to me she didn't know, he didn't urinate himself in the bar. I know that for sure. And like she indicated, she didn't think that he was even inebriated until he kind of stood up, which he does have trouble walking in general. So I could imagine if he did have a couple drinks or if he took his medication or whatever the case is, that, yeah, he could have had trouble walking. You know, sometimes he has a walker and sometimes he uses a cane. He probably should always use a walker. So yeah, again, I'm not debating that happened. I'm sure that, I mean, it happened. He was there for over 4 hours. He had 4 beers. He had a couple drinks. If the people that walked her out would have said, hey, I'm going to stick this guy in the front seat of the car and he's going to drive home, she would have said, absolutely not. We would have called an Uber, called a taxi cab. You know, I'm sure she offered him water when she noticed that he needed assistance or, you know, was, and I don't know if he was inebriated because I don't, for drinking 4 beers in over a 4-hour period, I mean, that's, so I can't speak on behalf of that or what other extracurriculars take place, but I definitely know that she definitely wouldn't allow him to drive home or anybody for that matter if they seem like they have been drinking too much. So, and that's something that we do cover as well, is that we make sure that if somebody is, because if someone seems like they've been drinking too much, we do ask questions like, hey, how are you getting home? Or if they're with friends, hey, you're responsible for this person getting home safe. You're driving, right? You know, questions like that. I know I take this stuff very seriously. You know, I'm not trying to run like a half-ass, excuse my language, bar. I'm trying to do everything from top to bottom the right way. Obviously, we don't want to be in trouble. She did more training. That was something that was one of the things that we discussed. I took shifts away from her already as far as a punishment. And we had some other discussions. So I'm not making excuses for it. It should never happen again. She understands that if it does happen again, I'm going to fire her, which I don't want to do. I try to build, even with my employees, a family atmosphere. I mean, people make mistakes, right? I mean, she made it twice, which isn't acceptable. It affects me, you know, which I know it wasn't on purpose.
I have some cross-examination questions. I'm most specifically interested in prospective changes, right? You don't want this to happen again. I don't want this to happen again.
Correct.
I've talked to you
Yes.
generally about practice policies, procedures. What, if anything, have you done to make sure that these are isolated incidents?
Well, I again reiterated it to my staff multiple times. We also have custom signs that we're going to put on the outside of the building and on the inside of the building that says, on the outside, have your ID ready upon entry. On the inside, that we ID 21. And there, like I said, it's not an optional thing. It's not like, hey, we get to pick and choose who we want to check IDs for. Everybody should get their ID checked when they come to the door.
There, how do you think things have been going since this complaint came out?
Well, I haven't really been sleeping that great. Personally, you know, it makes me feel sick that this is happening. That we're here for this.
I guess I'm most specifically interested, and I appreciate that, and
Yeah.
I think it's good that I don't want you to lose sleep, but I also know that you're invested in
Yeah,
this.
yes.
I'm more specifically asking, you've changed some policies, you've done some more training, you've talked to people. Do you think, you also said that there should be times when you get updates about what's happened at your bar, so have things been better?
I would say yes, things have been better. I was surprised that this happened in the first place. I was really surprised the second time that it happened. The first time, like I said, okay, you made a mistake. Let's just do better and make sure that we're more actively doing this. The second time, it's a tough pill to swallow, right? I mean, like, for anybody, especially because we did have a conversation even a week prior to that, because she's like, man, that still haunts me that happened, and I've been checking everybody's IDs. So I don't know why she didn't do that. I don't have an answer for that, because, again, it's a non-negotiable thing. Everyone's ID should be getting checked.
Do you have policies or practices about music, or how loud that is, or keeping doors open in the summer?
Well, typically our doors are closed unless, we just did have a gathering where it was a little bit loud, but it was really hot in there, so we had doors open. I do have a really strong air conditioning unit, so it's actually pretty frigid cold during the day, during the summer, so we do keep the doors closed at night, or it's supposed to be closed past about 10 o'clock if they are open.
Because you have neighbors that could be residential neighbors or other.
Correct, yeah.
Right?
And,
So
yep,
they
I have a
can-
pretty good rapport with them usually, so.
Okay. So you're well aware that people would or could call the cops if there's noise issues or patrons wandering into yards, peeing in yards or something like that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And you
Right.
make sure that doesn't happen?
We do make sure that doesn't happen, yeah.
So, for example, were you updated about anything on a few days ago on the 22nd?
Well, we had my birthday party actually was on the 21st. So
Okay, so
we
maybe it was
did,
the
I know
same
the
day.
officers came and shut the doors. I think they did have a complaint about noise.
Okay,
So,
so you're making sure those doors are closed?
correct, yeah. Like I said, 99.9% of the time they are always closed. The front door is open sometimes, but at night it gets closed.
Did you get an update at some point about a guy that like wandered out and walked into a pole? Like a cartoon?
No, I never heard about that.
Okay. Um, would you be willing to put a policy in place, that basically, I mean, let's put it this way. I work a lot of elections here. I work in the city, right? And when I'm doing election stuff, any weird thing that happens, we make a record of it, because in case something happens, I wanna make sure that we're accountable to whatever that is.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to put into place some sort of log or bartender notes about, hey, XYZ happened, and that's something that you can then, hey, at 10:22 we kicked somebody out and the cops rolled through. It's just something you probably should be aware of, right?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Why-
And I have a group that, and this is, again, this is a learning, this is my first bar I've ever owned too. So it's constantly, you know, adjusting and getting better, right, at everything. So my bartenders, they should be telling me when stuff goes on, I guess, and I have a group that they can put messages on that I directly get it right away.
Okay.
So yeah, if you're asking if I should implement something that's more of a regular,
I'm just asking if you think that might be functional.
yeah, I believe that
Yeah.
that would be a good idea. I do believe that like I said, when she didn't tell me that incident took place, I'm usually aware of things that take place. I mean, they messaged me when we're getting low on toilet paper, for Pete's sakes. So I should be getting notified when the police are coming, yes.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Okay, is this where we can now ask all the questions that we may have? Because I have several, and I'll begin with.
For Mr. Silver, at least, I
Mr.
guess,
Silver,
yes.
correct. Now, just kind of reiterating, you have been licensed, for 1.5 years.
Correct.
That's what you stated, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, in that 1.5 years, how many police contacts have you had within your business?
Like for everything, like I'm coming in and looking for cameras down the street and stuff.
In general, if I can kind of condense this.
I mean, I would probably say maybe 6 or 8, maybe. I'm not there all the time, so I personally didn't have contact with them, but they call me and, like I said, they've asked me for camera footage of stuff that didn't happen at my bar. If my bartender called them to come to diffuse a situation or ask somebody to leave, it's not a very regular thing. I know that.
So we do know at this point, we've had 4. Am I correct on that, our attorneys? We had 4
There's 4 allegations.
allegations.
Or, yeah.
My position would be there's 4 allegations in the complaint. Mr. Silber did identify that on the one that we don't have an officer witness, he was aware that something happened.
Okay,
I am not gonna push that narrative for appeal
Yeah.
purposes, frankly. I don't have much to go on.
that's
I
fine.
mean, I guess I would say that technically the 2 undercovers, you know, he wouldn't have known about it at the time. So I don't know
Right.
if you're counting that in your count or if you mean
Yeah.
ones where you knew they were there for some reason or another.
Yeah.
Well, it was kind of a segue as to where my next question is.
Sure.
Because the last thing I want to see is a business not succeed in the community.
Correct.
But it is our
Same.
role and responsibility as a committee
Mhm.
that we issue these licenses and that you're following the law. And also, what we may be able to do to help you succeed in that. But
Sure.
it's not without consequence when you're not doing it right. And these allegations are serious. And it seems to me, based on your own testimony, I guess the question I have is, how often are you there? Are you open 7 days a week for one?
We're open 7 days a week. I'm there almost every day. But sometimes it's before we open or it's in the beginning part of we open. Sometimes I swing by at night, you know, check on things or meet people and stuff like that. So
How long do you stay when you stop in?
I mean, it depends on, I guess, when it is. Like today I was there for about 3.5 hours. And I left to go pick my children up from preschool or from summer school.
Okay, because part of my reasoning of asking as part of the testimony that you've given is questionable when it comes to policy, and I want to hear policy.
Sure.
And you stated there was a lot of talking that you've done with staff.
Yes.
And as a business owner, I see that Attorney Serwin has kind of prompted you in some ways.
Yeah.
What policies have you put in place, like concrete policies? Now, Mary has been punished, as you said.
Yeah.
Maybe her hours were taken, as you said. What definitive policy do you have that all 14 of your employees know?
Yep.
That, okay, whether Mary's the example or any of these other interactions are an example,
Sure.
what do you have in place? Is there a formal write-up? Is there a two-strike you're out? This is your business.
Correct.
This is your livelihood.
Yeah, it is my livelihood for my family, yes.
So as much
It
as
is.
you juggle, you
Yep.
still have to maintain
That everyone's
that
doing what they
order,
need to do.
because
Correct.
you are solely responsible. Your
Yep.
license is on the line.
Correct,
Mary will end up bartending somewhere else.
100%, right.
Right.
Yep.
So with that, that question is what policies have you put in writing besides the sign that you mentioned?
Yep.
And the verbal, the texting, what have you put together for an employee handbook? This is the policy. I want each of my employees to sign off on it and that they know, and if there is a violation, they're done. And then, Mr. Silber, unfortunately, you have to go as a responsible bar owner and bartend yourself.
Correct, which I do.
That's just how it goes.
Yeah, right, 100%.
So that's my question. How many written policies do you have in place, if any?
I have no written policies in place, it's just the actual, that is the policy. So I don't have them, they have never signed anything saying, hey, you're fired if you do this. But they know the expectations that I have and that we are upholding there at the tavern. And like I said, it's a pretty no-nonsense policy, so. Maisie, like I said, we talked about it, I mean, she's a great kid, I didn't wanna fire her, that's why I didn't fire her, that's why I'm here today. People make mistakes, right? I mean, she made
Right,
it twice.
and beyond that, if I may interrupt, it was just I wanted to know specifically how many written policies you have, so 0 is your answer.
As far as written policies, yes, but I mean,
Okay.
I guess if you consider written policy something that they actually have to sign or something that I've told them is the policy, I
A
mean,
written
what's,
policy, so if you have a meeting, for example, and you say it's
Right.
not via text, you're gonna sit down with your 14 employees
Right.
in a round circle here and say,
Sure.
okay, we're gonna go over line item by line item, this is a written policy. I want everyone to acknowledge, or if they don't acknowledge, the door is there.
that's 100% something we do when we hire them, that's the expectation, and we go through all of the policies and what's expected of them, especially because I would say 90% of the bartenders that I have never bartended before. So policies are very important on the front end that we teach them, hey, you check IDs, hey, you listen to people's conversations, you know, and all of the other, there's 1,000 of them that checklist items that we have and security features that I have in place. Like I said, we have the cameras. Anytime you go downstairs, you lock the door behind you because we don't want anybody to follow you down there. So there's a laundry list. I have an alarm system. So I
Okay,
mean,
and to keep time, I'm sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, but I have those specific
Okay.
questions. I have one other question
Yeah.
based on the fact that you said you have cameras.
Yes.
In these instances that
Yes.
you said, A, I was not notified, B, I had no idea.
it's only the one instance I didn't know about that.
Or any instance
Yep.
that I'm speaking of, do you review your cameras?
I do.
Okay, so on the evening of these allegations, did you review the camera?
I did review the cameras, yes.
And did you find that there was indeed a situation with the one gentleman who had 4 beers and 2 shots?
I did not see that there was a situation with that.
So you,
I did not see the camera footage on that because when they made it aware to me, I talked to Eileen and I did not check the footage on that, no.
okay. I'm not gonna go on with this line of questioning. What I do have to bring up is the phone call that you made to me after the incident, and I don't have a specific date for the record.
Yep.
However, do you acknowledge that you did call me as the chairperson of the Public Safety Committee?
Yeah.
Okay, and you called me for what reason?
I actually called you prior to getting served any papers or anything like that, and I was calling you because I did find out that she had served for the second time, and I wanted to see if there was any protocol or anything we can do for more training and stuff like that for her, and if there's anything I can do for the city or for myself prior to her actually us doing this. So this wasn't even thing. I hadn't been served or knew that I was gonna be in front of you guys yet. I was just trying to be proactive and, try to figure out if you had any tips or tricks or, anybody that I should talk to or things that we should do, to try to, be better, I guess.
Okay, and I appreciate that you did that because I felt you were being proactive, but there was a part of the conversation that I'm gonna fall back on, that is it correct that you stated your frustration that these officers kind of tricked you this time around, because you're usually can kind of, the bartenders are kind of aware, or can kind of know the routine if they're having compliance checks?
We did have a conversation. I was frustrated, and I was frustrated with numerous different things. I was frustrated with her. I was frustrated with the situation at hand. I was frustrated with how it happened, and yes, we did have a conversation about that.
Do you agree that I stated in my personal opinion that this would be a management issue, not only coming from a personal perspective?
I don't recall that. I recall
Okay.
that you were at the hospital with your family and your mother, I think it was.
Brother, thank you.
Brother,
Thank you.
yeah.
I remember that. And lastly,
And I believe you may have told me to call him Nick.
I did.
That was you that told me
Yeah,
to call him.
I did.
And that, which I did, and we had a conversation. And again, I was being proactive at that point. I had no idea that I was gonna be called in front of you guys, or that this was even gonna be a thing, to be honest with you. I just knew that we messed up, and I wanted to make it right, for the city and for myself, and, again, we were always striving to be better and do better and learn from our mistakes. That's really it. I would never condone that, obviously, and we do have, and I assure you that we have plenty of checks and balances in place. We haven't had any other issues, going, really, except for those two that I deem that's unacceptable, and I'm not making excuses for it, regardless of how the operation that they did. She ultimately didn't do her job, right? And that's something that we talked about on more than one occasion, and we talked about what we're gonna do going forward, and we talked about how it's a non-optional thing, and that I'm gonna fire you, even though I don't wanna do that.
Mr. Silver, if we may just go back to the
Yeah.
questions at hand, which was our conversation on the
Yeah.
phone. The ending of our conversation, even at the beginning of the conversation, would you agree that I did express what the protocol would be if there was a violation with a bar or tavern license and whatnot, what the protocol would be, and that's in ending, said that any reports that would come through our city attorney's office, and that was my recommendation, to give him a call at that time.
I believe, I don't remember the exact conversation that we were having, to be honest with you, but I do know that you said that, Nick would be probably a good person to talk to.
Okay.
In that, that's really the gist of, I think, our conversation was.
Okay, I have no further questions. I'll open it up to committee members at this time. I know that in fairness, Alderman Turner did have a question first, so if you don't mind,
Well,
committee members. we'll
Yeah,
go
pretty
ahead and
much,
have
I'm sorry.
it. You go right ahead.
Okay, the reason I asked that question before was that I wanted to know,
Alderman
pretty
Turner,
mu-
would you mind restating your question?
I am,
So
I
we-
am.
Okay,
one of the things I wanted to know when the question was about pretty much what you was talking about, the policies
Yep.
that you have. For
Yes.
instance, in a situation where you have someone who, I know you thought maybe he couldn't walk on
Sure.
his own,
Yep,
but someone put him in a car,
correct.
and
According to the
what is your
report, yeah.
policy about someone, you have had it happen, or you will have it happen,
Sure,
where someone will be, too drunk to walk?
right.
So what will your person do? Because it seems to me that many of the people that you have, like you said, 90% of the people you have never bartended before.
Yep,
And the inexperience here, it seems to be what's causing a lot of the problems you have.
sure.
Like, you can't let these people just drive off. Put them in
Correct.
the driver's seat.
Yep.
It's terrible.
100%, I agree. I 100% agree with
So-
that. And that would, like I said, the individuals that were assisting that gentleman I told my bartender they were gonna make sure he got home. So when they left and she's still at the bar, those two individuals are then, responsible for getting him home. They told my bartender they were gonna get him home safe. I don't, or they would have called an Uber if she had, they're directed, call an Uber, call a taxi cab, 100%. Have them sit there and drink water while the cab's coming, and, we would never ever send anybody out. Like I said, she would never send somebody out. Nobody would ever do that that's working there. If they said, hey, we're gonna drag this guy out to his car and toss him in the driver's seat, she just said, absolutely not. We're gonna call him a taxi cab or an Uber. And I've had, and we would pay for the Uber if we had to, honestly, to get somebody home safe.
Who's in charge when you're not there?
My bartenders are in charge when I'm not there.
Okay.
Solely in charge when they're not there. If anything happens, then they call the police or they call me if they have questions. Besides this, like I said, everything I have full faith in them. The people that I have working for me, they're not. There's reasons why I have people that have never bartended before. I mean, you can imagine a few of them maybe, I would think. So I try to hire good people. They can learn to bartend, right? You hire good people, they can learn to bartend. They make mistakes. We're going to learn from them and move forward. Can't change people though. So if you hire good people, that's my philosophy. I'm trying to do it different. I've had people tell me different things, what I should do, what I shouldn't do. But I'm really trying to build a family, even in the employees. And I believe that if I hire good people, we can train them to bartend. That's really kind of my philosophy, and then I'm doing something different. So, and that's what I'm sticking with.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Silver, I have question based on that. What experience do you have with bartending?
I bartended for about now, probably about 10 years,
Okay.
11 years.
In the establishments that you worked in, was there typically presence of a bar owner and or manager?
Never. It was a single individual working at a time.
All right. But if you had instances in your training and your experience as a bartender that you're passing along to your inexperienced bartenders,
Yes.
would you say that in past the establishments that you worked at would expect you to call, you would be expected to call the owner of the establishment if there were problems
Yes.
of any sort?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other committee members that have questions?
No.
Okay. That's all I have at this point.
I don't believe I'm going to call anybody as a rebuttal witness. I will just make a brief record that I did have a discussion while questioning was going on with the officer to try to make sure I could confirm generally, at least in the police CAD system, the amount of calls. I'll just recall. I don't want to testify for anybody. I'm going to recall just a rebuttal witness officer or Sergeant Stickle.
Thank you.
Sir, could you state and spell your name for the record again?
Adam Stickle, ADAMSTIKL.
And you acknowledge you're still under oath?
Yes.
Okay. There was testimony before about around 6 to 8 calls for service for the bar. I talked to you briefly about kind of what that general number or value would be, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So suffice it to say, when we look in the CAD system, some things relate to the bar, some things might not, right?
Correct.
So, for example, if there's a fight and a lady references that her boyfriend was yelling at her at this bar, even if the incident wasn't at the bar, it might be tabbed to the bar or actually have some relation to it, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, out of the calls that you're aware of or that we looked at, or in your capacity as kind of the supervisor for bars, about how many calls for service in the last year and a half?
About 7.
7 or 8?
7 or 8.
Makes sense. Okay. Does that seem to be accurate generally?
Yes.
Okay. We have 4 identified on this complaint. I don't need specifics, but we say there's 4 on this complaint. As alleged, there's some more outstanding out there. How have things been at this bar or tavern recently?
We've had 3 additional calls within the last month and a half.
Okay. Noise?
Noise, people that are highly intoxicated, and then also people possibly urinating in public.
Okay. Were we able to confirm any of those, if you're aware?
Yes, officers responded to those complaints and then wrote a short supplementary summary of their contact when I called.
All right. And you weren't involved in that?
I was not, no.
Those aren't in the complaint?
No.
All right, I'll make a brief record of what value, if any of those have, but that's all the questions I have. I don't know if they have any rebuttal or any additional
I mean, I
questions.
can say that I have a lot of times too, we have people that come in from the other bars that have been kicked out already or have nothing to do with our bar at all. I've had couples, like you said, arguing out in front that came from the other bar and didn't even come in our bar, but
The
they're out
bar
in
is pretty
front.
close to you guys, right?
That is pretty close to us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so is a few other places that are right in walking distance that aren't necessarily the greatest, which is one of the reasons why I was mentioning that we really are focused on trying to get good people in the bar, and keep good people in the bar, and try to get people coming down from like Station 6, from like Oak, and trying to kind of build off of what they have going on. But I will say that that has been one of the bigger things, which my bartenders all know, is that other people are coming in from other bars. They're on foot, they can walk around town there, and I have bathrooms, so I assure you that they're going outside to urinate from my bar.
Last questions for Officer Stickle, or Sergeant Stickle. Generally, bar staff and owners cooperate when you have contact with them?
Yes,
Provide video when you ask?
yes.
Okay. But for just kind of the nature of the industry, it's not that the bar owner or culture itself, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'll strike that, nothing else. I have no further questions.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Sergeant Stickle?
I don't have any questions, no. Thanks for being here, appreciate your service.
Does the committee? Okay, thank you.
Mary didn't have it, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure procedurally we don't flub up or make a mistake. Mary didn't have a chance to say her case at all. We want to make sure that that is.
Right, that's where I was
Okay, I'm
going
sorry.
to ask
Thank you.
where we go next with that. So at this time, we would ask Ms. Marcus any questions that you
Or
have.
if she wants to talk first.
Okay, yeah, you haven't had an opportunity to speak, Mary, so if you would like to take that opportunity, this would be the time.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Also, I go by Maisie too. I'm married legally. Maisie's my name though. It just feels more. Thank you.
Oh.
So, anywho, where to start? I accept full responsibility for all of my actions, both accounts, both. I know the second time does sound like a broken record. I messed up and I do feel so horrible. But at the end of the day, I cannot afford to lose my job. I support myself entirely since I've been 18 years old, completely financially on my own. Support my dad a lot in what he does. He's unemployed. He don't have a job, so I have to help him out a lot. Trying my absolute best. Just trying to like learn how to adult at this point, learn how to get everything in order, and has been knocked down a couple times. I'm just trying my absolute best to learn from my mistakes and continue, because I absolutely love my job, love where I'm at, love Craig, love my coworkers, so just want to do everything I can to work through that, you know.
Okay, thank you. All right,
I have no follow-up questions.
thank you. Mary, how long have you worked for Thirsty Cactus?
Little over a year
Okay, so a little over a year.
since we opened.
You stated that you rely on us for your general income, but you did state earlier that you also serve elsewhere.
I serve elsewhere, but I couldn't afford to not.
Okay, how many hours per week do you work at the Thirsty Cactus?
15, 20, 15.
Okay, so it's a part-time?
Yes,
part-time
part-time.
job?
Part-time at both. I split up my time, but I work as much as I can, pick up as many hours as I can at both jobs. Every week I'm trying to pick up as much as I can at both spots. I'm just, like, I work every single day. I have Sundays off, but even then I'm picking up as much as I can. Like, I work every single day. I'm just trying to do as much as I can right now.
Okay, and when you were hired by
Sure.
Mr. Silver, what protocol did you, as far as training, what were you offered?
Wisconsin Responsible Beverage, that's off the bat, that's what I took, when he had got the building and everything, got the bar and everything, had proceeded with the business and everything. So I had taken the course then, and let me come into the bar, look through everything, teach me like the basic whatever, like old fashioned, here's what you do, here's your muddler, all that stuff. It showed you gotta do IDs, you have to do teaching with people, because I'm not even able to go to a bar at this point, I'm 20 years old, so I mean, I just learning how to deal with people, which also helps, because I am sober on the job. I mean, I just dealing with everybody, learning new people, meeting new people, learning communication, relationships, building it, how important it is to be stern, because then people don't try and win that over on you, and they keep that respect with you to show you the first time. as soon as you start loosening that up, then they're gonna start knowing that they can toy with you and get one over, and that's not how I'm trying to be at all. I do take my job very, very seriously.
Okay, and another question, I think this will be my last question, is Mr. Silver stated that there was a consequence or punishment per se based on the underage serving both one and second time. So what's to come if this happens again?
I don't wanna have a job.
Okay, that's all I have. Is there any other committee members? Have any questions?
No, I do not.
It was mentioned that you got citations for both incidents. Did you pay those already?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were they? Do you remember how much it was?
Maybe around, just under 200 and just over 300. I don't know the exact numbers off the
Maybe
bat.
like 198.80 and then 313.
Yep.
All right, and then I have a follow-up question for that.
Go ahead, Alderman.
Yeah, about how much do you make on an average work shift relative to those citations?
Hourly, I make 10. I mean, I've even, the last 2 times I've been here, I've had to take off work, so I've had to lose shifts through that. He's taken at least a week of shifts, which is like 10 an hourly, and then tips, I guess range from like 50 to 100.
Yeah.
Good day, around 200, you know, give or take what's going on, Brewer game, Packer game, you know, that kind of stuff always helps more, but if there's not that, you know, just a rainy day, everyone just sticks in the bar and drinks even more, so I mean, got that too, so it just kind of goes day by day,
Yeah, thank
depends.
you.
Thank you.
Drinks even more within reason, right?
Well, absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to see where we're at here. So does the city attorney have any other questions of the witness? Or did we already do that? And are we going to closing? That would be my question. We're basically at the closing
Yes.
point. Okay, so at this point, does the prosecutor wish to have, or make a closing statement?
Yeah, sure. I think that'd be appropriate. Madam Chair seems to have had conversations with Mr. Silber. Mr. Silber did contact me as well individually. I have not had any conversations with Mary, or Maisie, I'm sorry, in regards to her tickets, or anything else. She did not, I'm the municipal prosecutor as well, and I don't believe we had any conversations. She didn't challenge those tickets, she just paid them and moved on with her life. I will say that my contacts with Mr. Silber, I find him to be earnest and sincere in terms of what his goal is. But Mr. Silber, just to be very clear, I think there is maybe a learning curve, and some additional policies or practices to be put in place here. And I think that that's gonna be a safeguard for you and for your bartenders to feel like they have the discretion, or maybe not discretion, discretion is the opposite of what I think they need to have. They shouldn't have a choice in terms of over service or underage service or anything along those lines. They know that, but I think as a responsible bar owner, and I'm speaking just directly to you, that is a policy or practice or something in writing or having this log. There's things that need to be put in place. And at least for the short term, what might be very, very helpful is that you have access, police reports are all public access information. You could request those. It might cost a little bit of resources, but for the foreseeable future, so you can get a grip on what's going on, it might be beneficial that on a regular basis, maybe once every few weeks, you make that request and just see what the heck is going on. So that way you're not hearing it first from me, okay,
Right.
or the committee.
Correct.
The committee knows that we had a chance to talk beforehand. I had proposed a potential resolution. And speaking for myself here, the committee is never obligated to take any of those resolutions. That's an additional option they have that wouldn't be available at this point, unfortunately. And so, just for what it's worth, my goal was never to take any discretion away. I didn't promise you anything as far as I could tell. I said this is an option that they would have, and we tried to work out a solution there. At this point, we've had shootings, we've had other cases where I would advocate for revocation. This isn't a revocation case in my perspective. I don't think I don't think the license should be in jeopardy. I think more training, more policy, more hands-on administration of how the bar should run needs to happen. But I think suspension is appropriate. My resolution I worked out was lower than the minimum, but at this point, I don't think the committee would have something less than that to do. And so I guess I'm not gonna put a number on it, but I think suspension is appropriate. For Maisie or Mary, boy, before you talked today, I think the only thing I could recommend with two of these was revocation. That being said, you're really young, right? This is a hard lesson to learn. It's been a financially difficult lesson for you to learn. I can see a very viable reason why the committee would revoke your license. I want you to be aware of that. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I want you to be aware of that, because if that happens, yeah, it sucks. The cops have to do their job where they go investigate this stuff, but the goal is not to, the goal is for people to comply, right? And so you gotta card people every time, no matter what, whether you work at this place or someplace else, within this community or other community. You see the ramifications of this are you financially, but also the bar owner gets pulled in, right? And that's a scary endeavor, because there's 14 other jobs that are in play right now, right?
Super, that's even worse than mine on the line. It's
Right.
just the thought
So-
of that.
Again, I'm not gonna make a recommendation, I just, as a prosecutor, say my piece to people, make sure that the lesson is learned, and, again, I would feel comfortable, but for, I think, the case that Mary put on, and I just feeling human emotions, like, hey, this is her job, this is what she needs to do to support herself. I can't say what the right call is, I'm glad I don't sit in your shoes or in your chairs right now, but you gotta know the ramifications of this stuff. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
All right, and at this time, we will go one at a time, and we'll start with Craig Silver. Do you wish to make a closing statement?
I want to thank you two for actually, I know, again, you guys are spending your evening here with us. Not accepting the last proposal, honestly, because I'm glad that we were able to have this conversation, and, you know, you can kind of, I hope, see what my goal is to the community and what I'm kind of striving for. And I think that is something that, you guys earn, I guess, or that is, you know, it's something that you guys should be able to hear and make your own decisions and stuff too, so. So I appreciate that. I'm sorry that you were here for this, and I apologize that you're spending your evening here with us, and we're all having to do this. So thank you for your time. Appreciate that.
And Mary, would you like to make?
I also appreciate your time. Thank you for hearing me out, taking what I have into consideration. I appreciate it. And just, I care a lot. I'm really trying hard, so thanks again for your time.
Okay, and at this time, is there a rebuttal?
No.
Prosecutor? Okay. All right, so I need a little guidance here too.
If you guys wanna go into closed session to deliberate, that would be at this time.
All right, so,
Before we go to closed session, Sergeant Stickle is not on shift. I wanna make sure you all feel safe. Is there any reason we would like to keep him here, or even city administrator, do you want to have an officer present?
no.
Okay. I've been lifting weights over there, so I can try to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right.
We have a couple of officers on committee.
Yeah, okay. So you can take off after the.
I guess, yes.
Or not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right.
It doesn't matter, it's up to you.
You're good.
I'm Angela.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you,
Come
Sergeant.
on, man. Nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually left, yeah.
To supervise.
All right, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No problem. So, for agenda item 1 and 2, the Public Safety Committee may convene in closed session pursuant to provisions of Wisconsin Statute Section 1985 1A for the purpose of deliberating concerning a case which was subject of any judicial or quasi-judicial trial or hearing before that governmental body. The Public Safety Committee may reconvene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of the agenda. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, roll call vote, I'm sorry, Alderman Turner.
Aye.
Alderman Haas.
Aye.
Alderman Helverson.
Aye.
Alderman Rowe.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We are in closed